Thank you. Thank you. Yes, such a blessing for all of us. Yes. Shalom, everyone. Shalom l'kulam, barachot haba'ot, barachim haba'im. Let us begin by sharing some breathing together so we can become more centered within ourselves, mind, body, heart, and soul, and with each other in what I call the virtual Beit Midrash. Many people call this the Zoom room. It is. I'd like to call it kind of raising the consciousness of what we're really doing here. It's a virtual Beit Midrash. So let us center into the Beit Midrash as we share 3 cycles of being breathed into, receiving the gift of breath, nishima, nishama, soul, and then pause for a moment and gaze at the miracle of aliveness. And then it's time to return the gift. We don't own it, it's on loan. We return it through the exhalation. And then again, pause for a moment and gaze and observe what it's like not to feel breath. Let us share together 3 cycles. Toda. It's wonderful. Toda. So we learn in Parshat Naso, you have the text, I hope, in front of you. We learn in Parshat Naso, which outside of Israel is this coming week's Parsha. We in Israel read it last week, right after as Shavuot went into Shabbat. In the book of Numbers, chapter 6, verses 22, 23, we read about the introduction to the threefold Birkat Kohanim. Originally, it was the blessing that Aharon, HaKohen, first Kohen, blessed all of Yisrael with, and from that point on, all his sons, going down, down, down to the generation, through the generations, till today in the synagogue, at different times of the year, outside of Israel. In Israel, it's more frequent. The Kohanim, at a certain point, go up front and bless the kehillah, the congregation. Also, we notice that our tradition honors this, and it reminds me of the mandate that we are mamlechet kohanim. We as an am are a nation of priests. There's a tradition that on Friday night before the Kiddush, parents bless their sons and daughters with this threefold blessing. And of course, we'll see where that leads to, the idea of giving a blessing. So I just want to introduce, I'm not going to discuss the threefold blessing. It's more or less the introduction to blessing. I'll read those 2 verses in Hebrew. Again, Numbers 6, verses 22 and 23. V'yedaber Adonai el Moshe lemor, daber el Aharon ve'el banav lemor, Ko tivrachu et bnei Yisrael amor lehem. And the Lord, the Eternal, spoke to Moses, saying, speak to Aharon and his sons, saying, thus you shall bless the children of Israel, saying the following. And then the threefold blessing. Teaching I'd like to share is from a Rebbe known as the Orach L'Chaim, the Way of Life, which was the name of his book. His name was Rab Avraham Chaim of Zolochkow in Ukraine. He was one of the students of the Maggid of Mezerich, and he lived from 1750 to 1816. And this is a teaching of his that really does invoke and call to the calling that Am Yisrael, the people of Israel, the nation of Israel, part of our shlichut, of our mission, is to be in service to the world. As a Kohen was in service to the rest of Israel during the times of the temple, we as a nation are the Kohanim to the world. And let's explore for a moment and see how blessings kind of fit into that. So he begins by saying, sacred texts teach us that God created the world so that his kingdom would be revealed upon Yisrael. Meaning, already we see we have a mandate, we have a mission, we have a purpose, that God's presence, God is the creator, the omnipotent of everything, is upon us to show that to the world. For their sake were all the worlds created and linked to one another, meaning all the non-physical worlds, reaching down to this world where God's kingship, God's malchut, would be revealed through them, through us, through Yisrael. The last, it reminds me of the prophecy from Isaiah that the Am Yisrael is to be a light, an Am legoim, a light to the nations. The last link in this chain of all these worlds is the aspect of malchut, which means kingship. All the upper worlds and their lights are manifest in malchut. Now that's a Kabbalistic reference, and for many years it was quite abstract for me. It sounded nice, but I really didn't get it. And the Rebbe here, the Orach L'Chaim, brings down a piece of Zohar that really explains what malchut means relative to the rest of the worlds. It means that all the beings above and below are included within it. What does that mean? Malchut is the mirror in which all are reflected, and that's based on the Zohar. So imagine when you look into a mirror, actually when I look into the screen, I can see everything behind me is included as I look forward. So we on earth receive the reflection back of everything that has preceded us. It's really a remarkable place to be, to contain everything as a reflection of. Now, the Holy One, Blessed, the Holy Blessed One, gave blessings to Abraham, our father. You can count the stars. If you can count the granules of sand, that's how many you will be in your family. And he passed that on to Yitzchak, his son, to Yaakov, his son, and then to his sons. But those are specific blessings to specific people. The Holy Blessed One gave the act of blessing to the Kohanim. The idea that not only God blesses, but the Kohen, and by extension, all of Am Yisrael, because we are a nation of priests. And why? Because the priests, beginning with Aharon, represent chesed. Moses represented more of the law, which was more like limitations, like a holding back. This is allowed, this is not allowed, permissible, not permissible, acceptable, unacceptable. Aharon was this way. He cultivated compassion and love. So the Kohen is the person that cultivates love, kindness, chesed, ahava. Now, when the Kohanim spiritually awaken within themselves their love to bless Yisrael, what happens is incredible. They then awaken the love far, far above in the uppermost source of love, which then showers the goodness and blessing to flow upon Yisrael. Therefore, the sages codified to preface the blessings when the Kohanim, even till today, when the Kohanim bless the Kehillah, they say the bracha, Asher Kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu, and then Levarech et Amo Yisrael ba'ahava. They acknowledge that God has commanded us, the Kohanim, at that moment to bless the people Yisrael in love. For through the Kohanim arousing their own emotional disposition of love to flow and to bless Yisrael, they arouse love and the flow from the uppermost source into Malchut. And the Malchut is called the assembly of Yisrael. Why? Because we become the conduit. It's an amazing way of seeing who we are as a people. We actually become the conduit through which the blessings from above can then shower down and then permeate out upon everyone. And this Rebbe actually says, all Yisrael and all the worlds and all creations, not just other human beings, meaning non-Jewish human beings, but all creations that are rooted in Malchut, which is everything, receive that blessing of love from the uppermost source. all beginning with the Kohanim reaching into themselves to then reveal that love. But then the Rebbe asks, how were the Kohanim able to attain such a state of pure love? Surely they had to cultivate teshuvah, this turning to the one, returning more to the one, seeing themselves in an absolutely humble way. This was like Sinai, when we were all one, receiving the Torah, ke'ish echad b'lev echad, like one person with one heart. Therefore, the verse says, speak to Aharon and his sons, saying. The act of saying takes place within the heart, not in the mind. Think of when you talk to yourselves, as we soon, in a moment, will move into our sit and silence, and we may hear ourselves talking to ourselves. It's a function of our own intuitiveness. It's based in the heart. And he even quotes from Devarim, from Deuteronomy 7:17, Ki tomar b'levavacha, you shall say into your heart. The heart is the seat of intuitive understanding, of Binah, the place to which we do return into Teshuvah. They needed to turn to the one to come to love all of Yisrael. This is why today when people say, it's hard to love everyone, us Jews, we could be difficult. We could be difficult. And we don't even have to like each other. We need to love each other. And by loving each other and loving ourselves, we then invoke the blessings from above. Then we are able to connect to all of humanity and the rest of the world's creations. So in conclusion, by reaching the source within themselves, they were able to draw brachot, blessings above, upon Yisrael and upon Malchut, from the highest of highest sources. All worlds and all creations. It's like the Jewish people, we have this dual role. We're taking care of our immediate family and then blessing the cousins, all of humanity. All the worlds, all of creations partook of this blessing. Let us hold that. Excuse me. I'm just so excited about this teaching. It gives me hope. It really gives me hope. We can do this. So let us relax into our embodied sensations right now. Invite you to be in a comfortable position. Front of your head up, feet on the ground. Unless you're sitting in lotus, then your tush is on the ground. It's important to make contact with the ground. And imagine that you are receiving energy from above, moving through the crown of the head, the palms of your hands, down through the body, out through the feet, into the earth, and then in reverse. And let us settle into a contemplative practice. Review this teaching for yourselves. What is it asking of you? What is it calling upon you to be, to do, how to feel, how to think? Let us explore that for the next 10 minutes in silence. Yeah, no, And as we're moving into our closing 2 minutes, I invite everyone to reach deep inside to that place of the one, to that place of love, and visualize someone with whom you connect that you would like to bless. Bless with encouragement, with support, with compassion, and feel yourselves actually blessing, that we've been given by the Creator the capacity, the ability to really invoke from far above, eliciting blessings to come down for that person. And we'll sit for another minute together. Another 2 minutes. And as we conclude together, as we began, let us share together 3 cycles of receiving pure, clean, fresh, never yet manifested in the history of the universe, being breathed into cycles. Together 3. Toda, toda l'kulam, toda. Thank you. Thank you.
Toda, Yiscah, thank you so much, as always. What a gift of the Torah and the practice. And we seal it as we do each day, friends, by offering an opportunity. If you're in mourning or observing a yard site, or if it's your custom to join in the Kaddish to do so, you can put the name or names of those you're honoring today in the chat. If you're not reciting Kaddish, please stay present for those who are. Be part of the minyan of comfort for them. Thanks to Jet for sharing the words of the Kaddish Yatom, the Mourner's Kaddish, on the screen. And if you're reciting it, I invite you to join me by rising in body or in spirit, and you can unmute at this time. Yitgadal, Hadash, Shemei Rabbah, Yalma, Dira, Yalich, Lamote, Tayetom, Yemetom, Enriched, Yisrael, Ba'agala, Man Harim, Yimru, Amen. Shmei Rabba Mevarach Olam Olamei Barach Rabach Ma'ad Man V'Yitalev Atar Yitalev Yitalal Shmei V'Yishmeru Elan Min Kol Birchata V'Shivata V'Chata V'Nechamata Amiran Ba'alman Yehi Shlama Rabba Min V'Chaim Valenu Says Shalom B'Shalom, says Shalom Aleinu V'Yisrael,
Amen.
Friends, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to our teacher, Yiscah Smith, once again joining us from Yerushalayim and offering beautiful Torah and practice today. Jet, if you are able to put in the chat the link to Yiscah's most recent or current offering. For those who don't know, Yiscah does a lot of teaching through our friends at Applied Jewish Spirituality, which is run by our friend and teacher, Rabbi Daniel Raphael Silverstein, who frequently leads us in practice here. I don't know if you can get that accessible. If not, I have it for you right here. Here we go. All right. So Yiscah is leading a new 8-week class with with Applied Jewish Spirituality, AJS. Putting many links in the chat. Practice breath awareness. There's a promotional video. There's a link to the registration on the AJS site, and there's a link to the first class, which you can join for no charge. So I just wanted to let people know of this additional opportunity to learn and practice with Yiscah. Friends, if you're leaving us now, please join us tomorrow to sit into Shabbat together with Rebecca Schisler, as we do in general on Fridays. And if you're leaving us now but not joining us tomorrow, wish you an early Shabbat Shalom. And we'll be back next week. Just a reminder, practicing almost all week with Rabbi Sam Feinsmith, a series on when things fall apart, finding a place of inner refuge. That'll be Monday through Thursday. So please come back and join us then next week. And as always, you're invited to stay on for a conversation with our teacher for today, Yiscah Smith. And if you have a question for Yiscah, please put it in the chat. And if you want to just share reflections on your experience with the practice, you're welcome to do so today. Thank you so much, Yiscah.
You're welcome.
It's such a rich teaching, and it's full of references, which for many people may be new or like not familiar, or maybe not feel so accessible. So, and yet the teaching, I think, is very clear and very straightforward. I was going to invite you to, if I was getting on the elevator with you at the 20th floor and heading down to the first floor, and you said, "Oh, I'm leading a sit today for the Institute for Jewish Spirituality," and they said, "That's interesting. I'm in a rush, but we're in the elevator together. Can you give me the elevator version of this? I've got mine. You want to give it a try?"
Sure. So I'm on the 20th.
Go for it.
We're on the 20th floor. Okay.
All right, maybe the 25th floor. Okay.
All right. So about 20 seconds.
I'll cut you some slack.
All right. So tonight, I'm going to share at IJS a way to bring healing to the world, blessing people. And when we bless, for the blessing to work, it has to come from love. And in order it to come from love, we have to feel the love and the source of love within us.
That's it. That's it. It's all dressed up with this Kabbalah and the Sfirot, but that's the essence of the Torah. And I love that, and especially since we just, of course, we're just on the other side of the Omer, and the last week of the Omer was devoted to the Sfirah, the theme of Malchut, which which is featured in this teaching. So I also really like that, it's a little bit of a Havdalah of like bringing the little bit of Malchut into this week also, and reminding us that Malchut, well, like all the Sfirot, but let's just focus on Malchut, contains all the others as well. I was, interested in the mirror metaphor, and I loved what you did with that. With looking in the mirror, we see everything that's behind us. Also, I love that. I was expecting you to say a prism or refraction. In other words,
refraction instead of reflection.
Well, just because the mirror is impermeable, right? But and it only reflects one. Well, I guess there's two-way mirrors, but maybe it's a two-way mirror. But it, something that allows the light and love to pass through, because you also use the word conduit, right? So for me, it was the experience of, and you did this in the practice too. You invited us to, and I thought it was really great how you invited us to imagine this loving energy passing through the crown of our head, through the bodies, down through the torso, down through the legs, through the soles of the feet into the ground, and then back up, as an act of blessing. So every time somebody offers the priestly blessing, Birkat Kohanim, that's the blessing that's being offered. And if you're receiving it, that's the blessing we're receiving. Yeah? Is that pretty much it, right? Now, what would you say to somebody who says, well, that's great, but I'm not a Kohen. I'm not a priest.
Oh, yes. What would I say?
You gave that answer, but go ahead.
What the Kohen is with the Kohanim, and by extension, the whole tribe of Levi, because they also were involved, the rest of the tribe of Levi supported the Kohanim in the temple. So they were in service to the other tribes. Likewise, we as a nation, because we're referred to at Har Sinai, right? Collectively, we are a mamlechet kohanim. We're a kingdom of priests, which really means, what are we chosen for? It's not that we're better or we were created differently, which puts us in a different category of higher. We were given a very special mission, and that's to be in service. To be in service.
Conduits of love and light.
Yes.
Not sure how many people learn that in Hebrew school.
I didn't. But I'm glad I learned it. I'm glad I have learned it. Yeah.
Or in yeshiva.
It's never too late.
Yeah. Never too late. And that's really the ikar. That's really the essence here. And so beautiful. It's a beautiful teaching, beautiful practice. Just noting here that Nancy mentioned in the chat the invitation to send a blessing to her friend who's having a cancerous thyroid removed shortly in half an hour. So we're going to send that love, that healing love and light to your friend Nancy and to all in need of it. And it's really just a general, I think, well, let me ask this, okay? Let's, because we're talking about extending blessing and receiving blessing, which is seems like two separate roles. And in a sense, this passage is inviting us to experience ourselves as receiving that blessing. And also it brought in Sinai. Of course, we're right on the other side of Shavuot also, of a moment, the Kohanim, it's as if the Kohanim are at Sinai, meaning that their egos are like totally transparent, I guess, like we're non-existent. They are just channeling God's light and love in the world, just as Israel, the people of Israel were doing the same at Sinai, and we are meant to do. I guess what a question that's at the end of this is receiving and extending at the same simultaneously. Like where the priests, stepping out of their receiving to bless, or is that a false dichotomy that seems to be receiving and extending seems to be a dichotomy where it's a binary or separate, whereas actually it's the same thing. It's all at once.
Not only do I see it as all at once, but it's time to our breathing. When we inhale, when we say, I'm breathing. No, I'm not breathing. I'm being breathed into. So if I don't cultivate mindfulness, which most of the world right now is not, and much of my life or most of my life, I did not. But when one does, one becomes more aware of, I'm receiving life, which in Hebrew is koach, it's potential. Koach means potential. So I'm receiving the blessing of potential. When I return the breath, I'm putting into the world, actualizing that potential. So I receive the ability, for example, specifically through this teaching, what is the koach, the potential that I'm receiving? The ability to bless, which really means to connect. My exhalation, I then bless. So I need to receive in order to give. If I have nothing if I've received nothing, then there's nothing to give.
I'm also appreciating the light and love emanating from behind you, Yiscah. The light is just, I'm sure that's not a kitchen light. That's just the light that's shining. It's beautiful. There is a question here from Steve Siegel. It appears to me that the Rebbe is saying that the Kohanim and we raise up their love, that is the sacred energy and light, and that act draws down the blessing, the shefa, the light from above, whereas in the case of Abraham, the blessing flowed down without a need for him to act first, like the idea that some psalms begin with David receiving and then singing, and in others, David sings and then he receives. Am I interpreting this correctly?
That's exactly what the Rebbe here pointed out in the Orach Chaim in the very beginning, that the blessing, when Hashem, the Holy One, blessed Avraham, that was this. It was this. I'm blessing you, and you're receiving the blessing that I will guarantee you that your family will be as great as the stars in the heaven and the granules of sand. It was one way. But what the Holy One blessed Aaron or Kohen with was not a blessing. It was it was a blessing, but it's the blessing to bless. For the Avot and Imahot, it was foreign. It was a foreign concept that they could actually bless somebody else. And I will tell you, in my past 50 plus years of exploring this world called the Jewish world and beyond, especially the spiritual dimension to it, not everyone in every pocket of sub-communities in different places in Israel and around the world even relate to this idea of, oh, I can bless somebody? I can bless somebody?
Right.
And in fact, yes, that's the blessing. That's the blessing that I can bless.
Yeah. Well, I want to, it was also very joyful to witness your own joy and passion in imparting this teaching, Yiscah. So on behalf of all of us, I just want to reflect that bracha, that blessing back to you, that you should continue to be a wonderful conduit of the light and love. And it's always a treat to connect with you. And we're grateful, very grateful for that opportunity. So thank you. Wishing an early Shabbat Shalom there.
Shabbat Shalom to you.
And same to everyone here. We hope to see you tomorrow to practice with Rebecca. And if not, Shabbat Shalom to all of you. Thanks to Jet, as always, for holding our tech mishkan, our sanctuary, with grace and skill, and many blessings, everyone. Be well.
Many blessings. Todah. And may the one who blesses be blessed.